Now there is a third way of using conditional formatting. We've had the first way, which looks at an individual cell's value and compares it against a set of rules. We've had the data bars and color scales for comparing a cell's value in a relative format to the rest of a range that is selected. And we now have top and bottom rules. Now these two work on a range of cells and effectively treat a cell as part of the range. So if we look at March this time and highlight all of our sales cells for every region, for every item that has been sold, and then go to conditional formatting and look at the options in the top bottom rules. Now in here, we can choose top 10 items, top 10% of items, bottom 10 items, bottom 10% of items, those that are above average and those that are below average. So this will change the formatting for any cells that are above average within that range. So if I select above average, we can see even on the preview that 3 of them are above average. And we can choose, as previously, from the predefined conditional formats, or we can custom format our own. And say, okay, all those that are above average, let's make them go bold. Change their fill to an orange color and their font to a light gray. Okay. And we can see that that occurs when we say OK and click away. We've got 3 of them in above average. Now the conditional formatting, like the other conditional formatting, will change if the values change and therefore there are less or more cells above average. So if I drop this one right down to 450, that brings that average down because that was one massive cell, and then more of them are actually above average. Whereas if I take this one up to 490, that again alters the dynamics and the average changes and different ones are then classed as above average. So these top and bottom rules apply to a range of cells and you can get it to highlight the top 10 or 10%. Obviously the top 10 in this particular case is not going to leave many free because there's only 12 cells, but certainly the above average and the below average are great options here for getting them to highlight. If we were to do this in April, for example, that hasn't been done, select all of those cells, conditional formatting, top and bottom. Let's go with the top 10%. And we'll just pick the default option light red with dark red text. Now you can adjust that 10%, so it doesn't have to be 10%, and we just make that go up or down to suit our needs. So the top 10% can go light red. We can then add an extra condition. Let's say the bottom 10%. So we're selecting the top and that goes one color. And then we're selecting the bottom, but it defaults to the same color. So we need to choose a different color. Let's go for green and then OK. That way we can see the top 10% go red and the bottom 10% go green. Again, bringing down that average would change things around, and this 576 becomes then the top 10%, whereas our little 7 stays at the bottom as the bottom 10%. So the conditional formatting has 3 different conditional options, changing an individual cell based on its own value against a set of criteria, the data bars and color scales, which compares a cell's value with others in a set range, and the top bottom rules for allowing you to select the top X, should we say, and the bottom X based on a cell's individual value, again in relation to a selected range.